Have you ever looked at a piece of land and just seen potential? Well, today we're going to break down the scientific roadmap for turning that potential into a really successful goat farm. We're going to cover everything from picking the right breed all the way to securing government funding. Basically, how to turn an idea into a profitable business. So let's jump right in. So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll start with the why. What makes goats such a smart move in the first place? Then we'll get into the how. Actually planning your farm, building it from the ground up, and then managing the day-to-day science of a healthy herd. And finally, we'll get to the most important part, making sure it all turns a profit.
All right, so let's start with the big question. With so many different kinds of farming out there, why are so many people choosing to get into goat farming? What is it about goats that makes them such a compelling option?
Well, a huge part of the answer really comes down to the animal itself. Goats are just incredibly adaptable and resilient, especially in some of the tougher, drier parts of the country. Plus, they reproduce pretty quickly, and their products are always in demand, which makes them an absolute lifeline for a lot of small farmers.
And we're not talking about some small niche market here. I mean, just look at this number to get a sense of the scale. Nearly 149 million. That's how many goats there are in India right now, and that number is actually growing. That alone tells you just how massive the potential is in this sector.
So the potential is obviously there, but a successful farm doesn't just happen by accident. That brings us to what might be the most important step, the planning phase. This is your blueprint. This is where you lay all the groundwork for everything that comes next.
Okay, so your first big decision is picking the right breed. And as you can see from this map, the variety across India is just incredible. The trick isn't finding the single best breed overall, but finding the one that's perfect for your local climate and your specific market, whether that's meat or milk. Now, let's get down to brass tacks. This table gives you some real-world numbers for a model farm, this one using the Black Bengal breed. You can see things like the initial cost for the animals, how much space you'll need, and even key performance stats like litter size. This is the kind of hard data that turns a dream into an actual workable business plan.
All right, so you've got your plan. Now it's time to actually break ground. We're moving from the blueprint to the physical stuff. And success here really comes down to two things: building the right kind of housing and making sure you have a reliable source of food.
Now, what's so interesting about this is how specific the science of housing gets. This model shed isn't just some box. A feature like a slatted floor, raised 2.5 feet off the ground, is specifically designed for hygiene. It keeps the animals dry and cuts down on disease. The right height gives you proper ventilation. Every little detail actually matters a ton for the health of your herd.
But look, housing is only half the battle. Maybe the single biggest challenge for livestock farmers today is the fact that green fodder is getting harder and harder to come by. Pasture lands are shrinking, so the big question is, how do you feed your herd in a sustainable way? Turns out, the answer is some pretty clever agriculture.
And here's the solution. Research from the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, ICAR, has shown that you can be completely self-sufficient with fodder for a herd of 20 goats and their offspring on just 1 acre of land. That is a total game changer. It takes a massive problem and makes it completely manageable.
So how do you do it? Well, it's a really smart 4-step system. You plant cereals and legumes together, which not only makes the most of your land, but actually boosts the nutritional value of the feed. And then, by planting tough Napier grass along the edges, you get a living fence that's also a backup food source for when times are lean. It's brilliant.
And just look at the results on this chart. The numbers are incredible. This system produces thousands of kilograms of fodder in the monsoon season, and then even more in the winter season. This isn't just enough to get by, it's a huge surplus. It just goes to show how effective a scientific approach can be.
Okay, so you've planned the farm, you've built the foundation, now we're getting into the real core of it all, the daily operations. Your long-term success is going to come down to scientific management in 3 key areas: feeding, breeding, and healthcare.
See, feeding isn't just about how much, it's about precision nutrition. A goat's needs change dramatically depending on its life stage. For example, a breeding buck needs almost twice the concentrate feed as a regular adult goat. Getting these little details right is absolutely essential for a healthy, productive herd.
Next up, breeding. To keep that fast reproduction cycle going, you really have to become an expert at managing it. This diagram here shows the 9 key signs that a doe is in heat. You've got the obvious stuff like frequent bleeding and restlessness, but also things you might not think of, like a sudden drop in milk. Spotting these signs is a critical skill.
And of course, you've got to keep them healthy. The golden rule here is always prevention over treatment. This simple schedule lays out the must-have vaccinations for the most common diseases. Sticking to a plan like this is hands down the best way to avoid devastating losses to your herd.
So really, the main takeaway is that you need a holistic approach. It's a combination of vaccinations, regular deworming, strong biosecurity to keep new diseases out, and just constant, careful observation. And don't forget, you're not in this alone. There's help available, like the free PPR vaccine the government provides.
Okay, this brings us to the final and, let's be honest, maybe the most important part. You can have the best managed farm in the world, but how do you actually turn it into a profitable, sustainable business? Let's look at the numbers.
So if we look at that model project again, we see this key metric, the internal rate of return, or IRR. You can basically think of it as the annual growth rate of your investment. And at over 27%, wow! That proves that a well-run goat farm isn't just a passion project, it's a seriously strong investment. And to really drive that home, check out the benefit-cost ratio. A ratio of 1.44 is fantastic. It literally means that for every single rupee you invest in the farm, you can expect to get 1 rupee and 44 paise back in profit. The returns just flat out outweigh the costs.
But you know what? Here's maybe the best part of all. You do not have to do this all on your own. The government of India actually offers major support for farmers just like you through something called the National Livestock Mission.
This mission is really built on 3 main pillars. It gives you financial incentives for breed development, it helps you set up those exact fodder solutions we were talking about, and it even provides support for things like research and livestock insurance. It's a whole system designed to make it easier and safer for you to get started.
So let's recap. We've seen the clear scientific path forward, we've seen the strong economic potential backed by real numbers, and we know there's a robust government support system just waiting to help you succeed. The roadmap is all there. The only question left is, what will you build with it?